10 years ago, robotics was really the domain of enthusiasts. You mentioned this is the sports department. In this department, we've raised not just winners of competitions here in Kazakhstan, but also prize winners at world championships. So you believe it could even become a subject in its own right? Absolutely. Right now there's a lot of discussion about introducing artificial intelligence into education. We encourage it as much as possible, both for the kids and within our own team. I believe that in the future many of them will continue on creating startups and inventions together. It's a prospect that I think will hit us sooner than we expect.
Sanzhar
Shalkarbekov left a career in international consulting to teach kids how to build robots. And now 10 years later, his long-held dream of creating a Kazakhstani robotics brand is finally starting to take shape. Sanzhar, hello. Welcome, Uliana. We're glad to have you here at our school. Thank you. So besides being the founder and head of robotics school Robotek, you also hold a PhD from London Business School. You once worked at McKinsey, one of the world's top consultancies. But before you dive into robotics in Kazakhstan, I have to ask, what happened that made you give up a career in international consulting at a major firm to start a robotics school here in Kazakhstan?
Школу робототехники в Казахстане.
Проработал 15 лет за рубежом, работал в Лондоне, работал в Москве, работал в крупных банках, консалтинговых компаниях, как McKinsey.
I spent 15 years working abroad in London, in Moscow, at major banks and consulting firms like McKinsey.
И в рамках моих должностных обязанностей.
My last role was strategy director at Sistema, public joint stock financial corporation, a major Russian company.
Одна из тем, которые я глубоко прям исследовал.
Part of my job was to track new trends and technologies, and robotics was one of the fields I dug into deeply. At that time, everyone was talking about the fourth industrial revolution. You could feel it in the air. Technology was about to change everything. And I kept asking myself, as a Kazakh citizen, what could I do that would truly transform my country and benefit the next generation? That's when it struck me, education. If I can play a part in changing things for the better by giving them knowledge in new technologies like robotics, IT, programming, then I'm helping to reshape their future. Because if there's one thing that truly changes a person's path, their well-being, their career, it is the quality of education they receive. I was lucky enough to get a really good education here in Kazakhstan, and then later went on to do my master's at London Business School. And I thought, if I could help kids here in the same way, that would be something worthwhile. That was the spark. I spent about 6 months mulling it over, talked it through with my family, and with my wife's support, I finally made the leap. In June 2015, I moved to Astana and slowly started bringing this idea to life. It's been 10 years now, and honestly, I've never once thought, why did I do this? On the contrary, every day at Robotek feels rewarding. We're teaching kids. Some of them become world champions, while others discover a passion for robotics and choose it as a career. And for me, it feels like I'm getting closer to the dream that first inspired me a decade ago. I'm proud that the momentum's still there, and that Kazakhstan is gradually carving out a name for itself in robotics among young people. Together with colleagues across the field, we're building what I hope will become a real brand of Kazakhstani robotics on the global stage. So let's take a look at how everything's set up here and talk about where robotics in Kazakhstan stands today, not back in 2015 when you were just starting out, but in 2025. Absolutely. Welcome in. Sanzhar, how has the interest in robotics evolved here in Kazakhstan? Back when you started 10 years ago, there were probably just a handful of people involved. What's the picture like now? What's changed?
Изменилось много, я сразу скажу.
A lot has changed. I'll say that straight away. 10 years ago, robotics was really the domain of enthusiasts. I remember those guys, people with a background in radio engineering, programmers, engineers, who just loved the idea. They were pioneers, they saw the future in it, and they wanted to push the field forward. They set up robotics clubs and circles, and that's how it all got going. Today the interest is much broader, especially from the education system itself. You can now find robotics classrooms in schools all across Kazakhstan. But it's still outside the core curriculum, right? More like an extracurricular. Yes, that's right. It's not part of the main school program. It's still offered as clubs, additional hours usually under computer science. From our side, we keep stressing on every platform that robotics deserves more attention. It's the perfect mix of engineering and programming skills, and in fact, around 60-70% of what a robotics specialist does is programming the robot. It really sparks kids' imagination, builds new skills, and if it became part of the main curriculum, that would be fantastic. So you believe it could even become a subject in its own right?
Именно как предмет, и, на мой взгляд, чем раньше, тем лучше, потому что мир уже заполняет роботы, и темпы именно роботизации в мире будут
Absolutely, and the sooner, the better.
по такому же пути, как и развитие компьютерных технологий.
Robots are already becoming part of daily life, and the pace of robotics worldwide is only going to accelerate.
Там работали такие специалисты.
It may follow the same path as computers.
Assembler, там, Basic.
Back in the 70s and 80s, huge machines sat in research institutes, programmed by a few specialists using Assembler, Basic, or C. Now, laptops and computers are everywhere, used by kids, adults, retirees, everyone.
Я думаю, робототехника как раз переходит из такого технического...
I think robotics is heading the same way, moving from a purely technical niche into something with much wider applications.
Это хорошо, роботы это нужно.
It's about reshaping perceptions, seeing robots as a positive, as something essential.
Там, лазить в шахтах, работать пожарными.
They can boost GDP, take over dangerous jobs like mining or firefighting, and free people up to focus on creativity, on new professions, or simply on their own well-being.
Да и просто вот занялся, как говорится, собой, своим здоровьем, да.
А вот давайте все-таки про сегодня. Вы уже 10 лет занимаетесь этой темой.
Let's talk about today.
Наверное, увидели, уже успели увидеть.
You've been in this field for 10 years now, and you must have already seen some of your students grow up.
Потому что вы сейчас говорите о том, что...
How are they using the knowledge they gained?
Практически...
Because, as you said, they start acquiring these skills really early. It becomes part of how they see the world.
Призму этих возможностей.
So when they graduate, do they actually choose this as a profession? What happens next?
Что дальше?
Well, 7 out of 10 of our students go on to choose technical majors when they enter university.
Специальности при поступлении в вузы.
And what kind of technical fields are we talking about?
Инженерия.
Engineering, robotics, cybersecurity, IT, those kinds of fields.
Такая вот техническая сфера.
We did a survey of our students who once were in grades 5 or 7, and now they're either already at university or about to enroll, and most of them said they would pick a technical specialty.
Специальность мы поступаем.
We've got some great stories. For example, students who spent 5 years with us in robotics went on to study robotics at Nazarbayev University.
У нас есть кейсы, когда...
And even some of our own teachers, while working with us, chose to pursue masters and PhD programs in the field. One of our colleagues, Aygirim Nurbayeva, is finishing her PhD in robotics at Nazarbayev University this year. She first joined us as a regular teacher who simply wanted to teach children robotics. And she enjoyed it so much that she chose it as her profession. And once they choose it as a profession, what do they actually do in practice? They work in areas like industrial automation. Think of transport systems, logistics infrastructure, warehouse operations. That's where warehouse robots are being deployed. And you need specialists to program those robots, to integrate robotic system. You need people who really speak the language of robots. Do you already see strong demand for these specialists on the market, or is that still more of a future prospect? It's a prospect that I think will hit us sooner than we expect. Right now we look at Japan or China and think that's where it's happening. But here in Kazakhstan, sooner or later, our big metallurgical plants and car manufacturers will have to adapt. And once robotics can cut production costs and cheaper goods or raw materials produced with robots start entering Kazakhstan or global markets, we'll realize we need to lower our costs too. And the way to do that is through robotization. I believe the shift will come suddenly, just like the rapid move to digitalization, or how we switched almost overnight from paper to electronic document flow. That trend will sweep through fast, and everything we've been doing all these years is about preparing talent for that moment. We've got a great project called Robotek Girls. The idea came from something we noticed early on. Most parents tend to bring boys to robotics. 8 out of 10 kids in our classes are boys, and very few girls. But we know this technology is just as accessible and engaging for girls. So last year, with support from our partners, we launched this program and enrolled 100 girls. The feedback was amazing. They were absolutely thrilled. Many said they'd never realized robotics could be so simple, exciting, and fun. A lot of them promised they'd spend more time on STEM subjects and robotics clubs during the school year. We designed the whole learning process to be creative and engaging. They were creating their own robots in fun, creative ways. And from the progress we saw, the girls absolutely loved it. We want to change the mindset that robotics is only for boys. Girls should feel just as welcome. Robotics should become mainstream, open to everyone, not divided by gender, the way people used to think. Right, the old idea that engineering is a man's profession. And how old were the girls in your program? They were 10 and up, so mostly middle school kids. Alongside the robotics classes, we also took them to Astana Hub. One of our partners, Techno Women, is an organization that actively promotes IT education for women and girls. Together with them, we organized social events where the girls met female entrepreneurs building IT startups. We even took them outside the city to see a drone show, UAVs, and other new technologies. It really broadened their horizons and gave them a deeper connection to the world of robotics. And how did you select these girls? For example, did they have to have top grades in math, physics, or computer science? Was there some sort of preliminary selection? No, we didn't look at grades. For us, the only real criteria were willingness and interest. And did you see the same kind of potential in them as you see in your male students, who, as you mentioned, still make up 8 out of 10 in your classes? Absolutely. We spoke with the girls and their parents at the end of the project, and they were genuinely excited. Many of them said they now wanted to pursue IT subjects while still in school. For them, it was as if a new world had opened up. Sanzhar, before we started filming, you mentioned you'd just come back from the airport where you were seeing off some of your students headed to Shymkent for a competition, or as you call it, a championship. What exactly is sports robotics in Kazakhstan and more broadly, worldwide? Sports robotics is a special kind of training. I'd even call it a sport in itself, designed for young students of robotics. At robotics championships, children put all the knowledge they've gained into practice by building robots that complete specific tasks. Each competition is built around a challenge. For example, within 2 minutes, the robot must navigate a course, visit designated stations, carry out tasks, pick up a cube, place a cube, toss a ball, and in doing so, score as many points as possible. The team whose robot earns the highest score wins. It's incredibly exciting, and it really feels like a sport. The children take the knowledge and skills they've gained in robotics and turn them into real championship-winning robots. In Kazakhstan, this movement has been around for more than 10 years, and in recent years, it's been growing rapidly, with many robotics tournaments taking place. This year, our team is competing in the national finals of the World Robot Olympiad. We've sent a team there. I went to the airport myself to see them off and wish them luck. Over the years, Robotek has earned 128 prize-winning places in competitions.
Наши команды завоевали 128 призовых мест.
And just to clarify, are these victories only within Kazakhstan or internationally as well?
На разных площадках есть.
On both fronts.
В Казахстане, так и за рубежом.
Our Robotek national team has had success here at home and abroad. In 2023, for example, at the World Robot Olympiad in Panama, our team took home 2 prizes, a silver and a bronze, competing against more than 100 countries. That's a huge achievement, because the World Robot Olympiad is considered one of the most prestigious competitions globally. Sports robotics is important for kids because it really fuels their motivation to pursue the field. It's the culmination of all the skills they've learned, and it pushes their imagination. It also builds a strong sense of teamwork. These kids form a community. They find friends and peers in this robotics ecosystem in Kazakhstan. And I believe that in the future, many of them will go on to create startups and inventions together. Championships like these help unite them into real intellectual teams. And do you prepare them in a special way for these championships? If we compare it to athletes, they have regular training and then focused preparation for big tournaments. Is it similar in robotics?
А есть вот непосредственно подготовка к каким-то важным соревнованиям. Вот в робототехнике как это действует?
Yes, very much so. Depending on the level of the competition, training can last anywhere from 1 to 8 months. And what does that preparation actually involve? It's a cycle of 8 to 16 training sessions. The kids come in, read the task. There's a specific challenge that will be used in the actual championship. And do you already know what the challenge will be at the championship? Yes, it's published on the organizer's website. That's the official regulation for the tournament category. We study it, then we print out the field, the course, and prepare a special arena for the robot to run on. We set up all the markers and objects according to the task, and then we start building robots on 2 wheels, 4 wheels, with or without grippers. We test which sensors will be needed, gyroscopes, color sensors. Once the robot is assembled, about 70% of the time the children spend on programming. The trainer's task, together with the kids, is to work through these challenges, so they learn both the construction of the robot and the coding behind it. We explore different options and strategies, like how to get around the field, whether to approach from the left side or the right. And after 8 to 10 training sessions, the robot is ready and delivers strong results, meeting the time requirements. With that team, we then go to the championship and come back with prizes. So what do the kids actually do at the championship? Are they handed the robot in pieces, with no code, nothing preset, and from that point on, they're on their own, without a coach? But where's the challenge if they've already done all this before?
Сложность в том, что на самом чемпионате все команды приезжают с супер.
The challenge at the championship is that every team shows up with powerful, well-tuned robots.
Потому что есть такие факторы, как освещение, например.
So kids' job is to optimize on the spot, because things like lighting or tiny bumps on the field can affect performance.
Настроить его датчики.
They have to calibrate the robot, adjust its sensors, tweak the speed.
Гладкие.
Sometimes the surface is too smooth and robot slips, so they need to slow it down.
Такие задания сюрприз, то есть на самом
And then there are surprise tasks.
робот должен еще выполнить.
At the event, an extra challenge is revealed, for example, moving an object from one place to another.
В эту локацию, например.
Children who know their robot inside out can quickly reprogram it.
Дополнительно делают программирование.
If they complete an extra task, they get bonus points, and that can secure them a prize place.
За то, что они справились с этим заданием.
So where do you find your teachers? Who are they? Computer scientists, physicists? Who are these people?
Мы обучаем своих кадров.
We actually train our own staff.
В нашем соседнем
Right now, in the room next door, we're running a course for a new group of teachers. Young people come in, and we train them for free over 5 days. They get about 20 hours of training, real professional development in how to teach robotics. They learn how to use the kits, and according to their feedback, it's incredibly engaging. Some of them had barely even thought about robotics before, but once they got hands-on building robots, programming them, they had that wow moment.
Есть там вау.
The robot moved, it beeped, and they realized this was a whole new opportunity, as if new doors were opening. I'm genuinely glad about that, because Robotek doesn't just educate children, it also creates new opportunities and career path for young people who work with us.
Которая вот работает с нами.
А почему вы решили это делать?
But why did you decide to do this?
Ну, мы понимаем...
Free courses are still an investment if we look at them from a business perspective. Was it because you realized you'd need to train teachers yourselves?
Да, нам нужно учить их самим, потому что именно педагогов в области робототехники, ну, насколько я знаю...
Exactly. We have to train them ourselves, because as far as I know, the state still doesn't prepare teachers specifically in robotics.
Техников, такой еще как бы...
Universities train computer science teachers, yes, but robotics is a new trend.
Курс повышения...
There isn't a program for it yet, so we fill that gap.
Для учителей,
We've even developed a course, a professional development program, an educational and sports robotics for teachers, listed in the Ministry of Education's official registry.
эти знания.
It's a recommended course. Teachers who complete it receive a certificate and knowledge they can use towards their qualification categories.
Мы в этом видим для себя тоже...
For us, this is also part of our mission to create the whole robotics ecosystem.
Учителей обучать и детей обучать.
Training teachers, educating children, organizing tournaments. When all of that works together as one big system, it has a multiplying effect on robotics education as a whole. Sanzhar, you mentioned this is the sports department. Exactly, the sports department, where the children train. Exactly, where the children train and prepare for championships. In this department, we've raised not just winners of competitions here in Kazakhstan, but also prize winners at world championships. And you also said it was messy here yesterday, and that you've just tidied it up. Yes, we've just tidied up. Yesterday we had a championship here that ran until the very end of the day. Afterwards we invited parents to see what the robots could do. It was kind of a demo day. The kids packed up their robots, so many extra instructions, 2 batteries, a pixie camera, everything put neatly in its place. All this was on the eve of today's trip to Shymkent, if I understand correctly. Let me ask you this. Right now, there's a lot of discussion about introducing artificial intelligence into education. Lawmakers are debating a bill on AI, mostly about restrictions. And much of the debate centers on its use by school children. What's your take on this? Because there are cautious voices warning against letting AI penetrate too deeply into schools and the educational process. What's your view?
Ну, я отношусь к этому очень позитивно. Я вообще именно как человек, который...
I see it positively. I'm someone who loves everything new, a bit of an enthusiast.
Конечно, сейчас уже некое требование.
Artificial intelligence is already a necessity of our times because we see how quickly this technology is developing, and it gives children and young people the ability to solve tasks related to education, to create new and creative things, to accelerate the development of their projects and startups.
Программ, разработку стартапов, поэтому я вижу.
That's why I believe the faster our society accepts this technology and learns to work with it, the better it will be for our country.
Тем, мне кажется, лучше будет для нашей страны.
I don't see AI as a
Не
threat.
вижу угроз, на самом деле.
I think the risks are still there. After all, artificial intelligence is just a tool. It can be used for good, but also misused. When children get a technical assignment, say to write an essay, they can just turn to ChatGPT, type in the simplest prompt, write me this and that, and in seconds it spits it out. Suddenly their homework takes only 5 minutes of effort. That's probably not a good thing. How do you think children should be taught to use AI in a way that helps them develop, rather than holding them back? Because in that case, there's little room for creativity, to be honest.
Творческого подхода мало, прямо скажем.
Да, на самом деле это один из вызовов, именно внедрение искусственного интеллекта в наша система образования.
Yes, that's one of the real challenges of introducing artificial intelligence. Our education system truly isn't ready.
Таким вот быстрым лайфхаком.
For many students, this technology has become a quick shortcut to get through daily assignments.
Задачи в области образования.
But I think that education system itself needs to adapt and transform around this technology
С учетом этой технологии.
so that artificial intelligence plus human intelligence, the student's own intellect, can work in synergy to create more creative, more interesting outputs that genuinely help children grow.
Который полезен для...
At Robotek, we've already launched AI courses for kids, and we see great benefits in it.
Там большой плюс, и сейчас вот...
This week, for instance, we've got a group of children learning to work with ChatGPT, generating images, creating videos, working with audio files.
Видео, работать с аудиофайлами.
The idea is that they can use these tools in their project work to come up with more creative results.
Создать более креативные вещи.
То есть использование чата.
So you actually encourage the use of ChatGPT and other AI chat tools in children's lives.
Искусственного интеллекта вы только поощряете.
We encourage it as much as possible, both for the kids and within our own team.
Действительно, они сейчас упрощаются.
And the technology itself is getting simpler and more accessible. Even programming can now be done with ChatGPT. All you really need is a laptop.
Уже за прикладной...
So we're shifting more towards applied use, not just focusing on the technical side of how to assemble or connect something, but on where these robots can be applied, how they can make everyday life easier, or even improve society as a whole.
обществом.